And
does he have ducks? We know he has hawks and we know he has falcons. Do the ducks hunt for him? Does he take the ducks fishing? Do the ducks have those rings on their neck where they can't swallow the fish? They bring it back to RFK Jr.? He looks like a Fallout 1 NPC. He kind of does, suffering rad.
I thought Trump lost and Kamala Harris won.
Yeah, I think that Vice President Harris was better prepared and that she was much more polished. I think that she also had the hosts on her side, which I think allowed her to get away with some of the statements on the substantive issues.
Chad, imagine if this guy was the vice president. Can you imagine having him in a debate as Tim Walz? What would you try to get him talking about? Would you go for the bear? Would you go for like vaccines? Like, what would you try? Would you go for his weird thing about Ashkenazi Jews and how how COVID doesn't affect them or whatever the hell he said? What would you try to get this guy talking about if you were going to use the Kamala strategy on RFK Jr.? I feel like the debate would be so much more entertaining with this guy instead of JD Vance. I mean, it's still going to be fun with JD Vance. Like, Walz is gonna wreck him. But these are my ravens. Wait.
Hey, everybody. These are my two ravens. They're not actually mine. They're just taming them.
Yeah, there's the ravens.
They did not discipline her on that. And
let me ask you that. Let me ask you that, Robert. So why didn't Trump then jump in and say, you haven't answered the question, Kamala. Are we better off now than we were before I left office? And it was his failure to jump in and get the answers he wanted or the questions he wanted. I just felt that was weird. I'm not quite sure whether he was told not to or was told to behave himself, whatever it may be. He was very un-Trump-like last night.
Yeah, you know, he actually, historically, has been one of the greatest debaters in American history. I mean, he dispatched 16 opponents in a row in 2016, but last night,
can we be honest about those opponents? We're talking about the likes of Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz. I'm trying to remember who else. Chris Christie. You say opponents, but I feel like that gives them too much credit. I feel like they were punching dummies.
He was not showing that side, and I think he lost.
Yeah, that's crazy that Vance agreed to a debate. Yeah, it's not a good idea for him.
A huge opportunity to really showcase his policies. Like Frank said, he was the better president. I mean, we have double the inflation, the housing prices have doubled. There's 15 million more Americans in poverty.
It's so weird how they're willing to cut Trump a break completely for 2020, which you could say that, like, yeah, COVID, you can't just judge him purely by the numbers, but at the same time, his actions, his performance as president, his clownery around the biggest public health emergency in our lifetimes, unarguably. But at the same time, they're like, oh, no, but like all the inflation that was in the deck when Biden came into office. Because, yeah, again, what you had was a influx of money into the economy through the stimulus and PPP loans and a reduction of products, right? You had too much money chasing too few products. That gets you inflation. That was in the cards, right? But they won't give Biden a break for that. They'll give Trump every break in the world, but they won't consider that. It's just weird how people's minds work.
Suicide rates have gone through the roof. The drug overdoses, all the indicia of social deterioration have increased dramatically and then the immigrant problem, which I think he talked about constantly, but I think
did Biden take the MAGA hat and give it to Kamala? No, because that was AI.
Well-articulated response on that would have been much more effective than the way that it was done. And then on the issues of war, I think, Vice President Harris was bragging about her endorsements by people like Dick Cheney and John Bolton. These are the neocons. There's 225 neocons who endorsed her in the last week. These are people who are pro-war, pro-censorship, pro-surveillance. These are the people who gave us the Patriot Act, that gave us the Iraq War. They're not endorsing her because they've changed their mind about anything. They were exiled from both the Republican and Democratic Party. Now they're all back. And that's what I worry most about Vice President Harris as a president, that, we're closer now to nuclear conflict than we've been at any time since 1948. And we're in with these wars.
What? Is there something in 1948 that I just don't know about? For Korea, are we talking Korea? I'm trying to figure out what bro is talking about.
In the Iraq War, which
Harris stole sword in the balls, changed my mind.
We should have never gotten into, and she doesn't seem to understand at all. She has an inch of knowledge.
You think Trump understands that?
About it. And, unfortunately, he did not take the...
Why did Trump try to quid pro quo the Harris campaign before he became a MAGA lunatic? I don't know.
The opportunity to, the Russians are routing them on every front, and
is that his idea of a joke?
It becomes much more difficult to end
what?
the war.
Also, look, I don't want to make fun of his medical condition, and maybe that's why he's shaking. Either that, or there's some kind of elaborate joke going on.
On every front, difficult it becomes, and right now, the Russians are devastating the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have lost the war. The Russians are routing them on every...
It's a weird thing to say about a country that has successfully invaded Russia.
Front, and it becomes much more difficult.
What is going on, Chad? Do you hear that? What is happening?
To end the war in a way that's satisfactory, that leaves Ukraine as a functioning nation the farther we go into it. So I think it's more difficult now than ever, but Putin has, until very recently, he has persistently asked for negotiations, persistently. And in fact, Ukraine passed a law making it illegal to negotiate with him. What kind of, what are we into here that you can't negotiate with your opponent? This is, it's inexplicable. But I think the war can be ended. It has to be ended. It's either going to end with the total defeat of Ukraine, or we can save some part of Ukraine at this point. But the Russians are not.
At this point, Russia's actually having more trouble holding together as a country.
Not going to win and lose this war.
Did you hear that, chat? Did anybody hear that? I don't know what part of RFK's presentation are disability and what parts are just him being weird. I feel like he's trying to make a joke. He's trying to make people think that he's got a duck, he's got a pet duck that maybe he's going to eat.
From the beginning, it was obvious that the Russians would not lose this war.
Oh, good point. Wait. He has a menagerie of birds, doesn't he? Yeah, that's for real. We know he has hawks, and we know he has falcons, right? I don't know beyond that. Does he have ducks? Do the ducks hunt for him? Does he take the ducks fishing? Do the ducks have those rings on their neck where they can't swallow the fish? And they go down and catch the fish, and they bring it back to RFK Jr.?
It was a foolhardy errand by Anthony Blinken and the people who are making these very, very bad decisions. The neocons in the White House who are making these decisions. It was a horrendous mistake.
But let me ask you that. Look, you and I have debated Ukraine quite a lot, and I don't really agree with your take on this. But let me ask you the same question Trump dodged. Would you like Ukraine to win, just in principle?
What I want is peace in the region.
Well, everybody wants that. But the question is really...
I don't know what victory means. By winning...
Clearly, he uses his ravens?
What do you mean by that? Do you mean beating Russia, going into Kerr?
Do you think it's his rubber ducky? No, it actually... You know what it sounded more like to me? It sounded like he has a cell phone with either a timer or a... Or that's his ringtone. Could that be his ringtone?
Okay,
this was an avoidable war.
Yeah. I think all wars should be avoided. Let me talk about animals with you. You've established your credentials in the animal world.
Oh my God, I'm glad we listened to the last of this chat. I wanted to get to bed. Oh, that's a cute bird. I wanted to get to bed, but holy shit, no, I got to hear about the animals.
Your own campaign. Let me play a clip from last night involving Donald Trump and pets.
Oh my
what they have done to our country.
Please, you could have asked him about the bear. You could have asked him about the whale. You could have asked him about his falcons, right? There's a lot of good animal questions For RFK Jr., do we really have to go back to this? I mean, I guess he just wants to dunk on Trump some more.
By allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Anyway, that was...
Did you think that was a big mistake of Trump to go down that line?
Yeah, I do. I don't think, I think he had a winning argument there. That the administration, the Biden administration, did not need legislation to end the invasion at the border. It looks like the Boston Marathon on the border. I've been down there. And
what?
You go...
The Boston Marathon?
There are 27 holes in the wall, in the Trump wall. And each one of those holes has a giant pile of construction material next to them for finishing the wall.
No. The Trump part of the wall is actually falling apart. I don't know if he's...
The Biden administration came in, they ordered that construction suspended, and they left that stuff to...
Most won't feel that nice base.
Rust, right next to the wall. Any American can go down and see that. They tore up the fences. They tore up the...
Fuck the fence. Fuck the walls. Fuck you. Go wear a whale head, you brainwormed asshole.
Sensor equipment, the long-range cameras, the night lights, and all of the material, and
fuck your goddamn surveillance state, RFK Jr., you hypocritical piece of dog shit.
People in.
Look, if there's any justice in the world, chat, this guy will be some animal's food someday, all right? If there's any fucking justice with all the fucking harm that he's inflicted on animals, right? He's gonna get some fucking karma at some point. And look, RFK, sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes the bear eats you.
Change two policies, the catch and release policy and the Migrant Protection Act, to make it so the Border Patrol couldn't do their job. All they need to do is reverse those decisions. That's all they had to do. They didn't need legislation.
So why didn't Trump say that
political decision for them,
accusing all the migrants of eating everyone's pets?
I wish he had. I wish he had. And I think, again, that he lost a lot of opportunities to
maybe the Ravens, maybe the Falcons, right?
To Vice President.
Oh, no, chat. I can imagine some Edgar Allan Poe death for Robert F. Kennedy with the Ravens.
About the failed record of this administration. And she was able to...
Animals don't want to eat him. He's got worms. Oh, that's right. It'll spread parasites more.
As I said, if you look at his record, and Franklin said this as well, the previous person you interviewed, if you look at his record, people want that record. People want to go back to no inflation. They want to go back to 15 million Americans not being below the poverty line, which has happened during the Biden administration.
That is fucking cargo cult thinking right there, right? Oh, yeah, because we had Trump and things were like this, so if we have Trump again, then things will be like that. Just irrespective of the fact that these material realities take place irrespective of who is in the fucking White House. This is magical fucking thinking that he's doing.
Want to go back to where
this is the brainworm talking.
Rate and the drug overdoses were low, and all of these other issues where life was affordable, or we weren't at war. But President Trump was not adept at defending his record, and I think he lost an opportunity, and I think it's sad.
I think that he was defending too much.
Has it cost him the election?
I feel like he was gunt guarding, and that's what cost him the debate.
Frank Luntz said, after some thought, I think he's blown the election with that debate.
Well, I would say this, Piers, that if you look at the
He's like, well, I'm part of the campaign now. I can't say that. I need that guy to get in.
topsy-turvy history of this election where, you know, when the night that President Trump got shot, and for the week after that, he was unbeatable. There was no way that anybody could ever challenge him. 2 weeks later, you know, you had President Biden drop out, you had Harris take over, you had the convention, and the Democrats were up on top again. Then by the 5th day of the convention,
Yeah, that brainworm is ratatouilleing him.
when everybody thought Vice President Harris was unbeatable, suddenly you had another 40% or 30% shift in Nate Silver's rating, where he rated prior to the convention that Trump had a 40% chance of winning, and yesterday, 2 days ago, it was now a 70% chance. So I would not make any predictions about what will happen in this election, because so many crazy things have happened this term. And I just don't know where it's going to go from there. I think Frank Luntz is really very smart, and he's a friend of mine. I've known him for 30 years.
Of course he is. Everybody, okay, Sussy Baca's a friend of yours. You're friends with Epstein.
I ran across Jeffrey Epstein at parties, at fundraisers, for the Robin Hood fundraiser in New York. But other than that, I had no relationship with him. I very much enjoyed seeing him on your show. I think that was
You're probably friends with Roger Stone.
a rash prediction, because I don't think anybody in the world can predict what's going to happen in this
Probably friends with Dersh.
election, what's going to happen next. It's the craziest election that I've ever seen in my life.
It's the fucking wildest stream that I've ever had, honestly, chat. This was a wild and wacky stream. Make sure to like it on your way out, though, if you have not already.
Time, and it must be one of the
Look, I normally give it a little more time to see if we can hit the sub goal, but I mean, if this when he's done talking, I'm done streaming. I'm gonna go to bed. All right. A very little time.
craziest in American history.
Have you spoken to Donald Trump since the debate last night?
No, I haven't spoken to him. I've spoken to people on his team, and
I feel like he's gonna say something like pedophile or something. Like I have spoken to. He's gonna name Ghislaine Maxwell or something. I don't know. Like I feel like
members.
I don't want to know what's on his freaking thing. I don't want to know what's on his like cell phone, right? Like who he's talking to.
And what have you said?
I think they feel like the same way that I do. I think that there were some lost opportunities.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh my God, chat. We're done.